Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Straight Talk No BS. It's your girl Chris.
And it's Lendrea.
And today we have a special topic. We're going to talk about the role of a husband and wife within a marriage. And since I've never been married before, I'm going to let Len lead this off. And you let me know what your opinion is of what you think the role of a husband and wife should be in a marriage, Len.
Well, I believe in marriage. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. I think if you find the right person, that soulmate, or that friend that you marry, I think it's a blessing. It could be a beautiful union between the two. Um, I know before you get married, though, I would advise anyone that's even thinking about getting married, before you get married, have a conversation first. And the reason why I say have a conversation first is because I've been married, now I'm divorced. I've also been engaged twice prior. But for my marriage, I was married for a few years and I did not know what I was getting into during my marriage. I had no idea. When I got married, I was very young. I would say fresh off the boat. I had just moved from Bermuda to New York and met my ex-husband. We did it for a very short period and then we were married. I wish someone would have stopped me. I mean, my family did try to stop me. My American family, they did try to stop me from marrying him, but I was stubborn, young. He was just attractive. He was good looking. We had a great time together in a short period, so I just married him. But I want to say I didn't make. I wish I would have known what I know now in regards to marriage. You know, we never talked when I got married. We never talked about finances or expectations or how many children we want. We never had that conversation. So I would tell anybody, for starters, before you get married, you have to have the conversation with your significant other, with your partner. You have to find out, look at both of your finances. Look at, ask what are the expectations, what each of you are expected from the other person. Do you intend to have children? If so, how many children? Even ask about the person's credit, even ask to have the credit disclosed. You have to ask these type of questions so you know exactly what you're getting into before you get married. For me, when I got married, um, I was under the impression, I had an expectation that my husband, like I feel, this is how I feel. In a marriage of a husband and a wife, I feel if the husband is the sole provider and the protector, I mean, he is the one that's bringing in the money to the home. If he is paying all the bills, if he is providing for the family, then and the woman is and the significant other, the wife is at home mother, then or at home wife, I think her role should be more so keeping up the house, the children, keeping everything running. Like you're running a tight ship at home. But also, before it can even be in that order, you have to have that conversation. A lot of marriages fall apart because the expectations of each other has never been discussed. If the man is the primary breadwinner, I personally feel that if he's bringing in the money, he's paying all the bills, yes, the woman can make a hot meal. She can keep the house clean, make sure the kids go to school, keep all the doctor's appointments and whatnot. I believe that should be her role. Um, if the bills are being divided 50-50, that again should be a conversation of what bills are being, either they're being split down the middle. I feel that the husband, if it's capable, should be paying at least 70%, the wife 30%. Um, or some families have 50-50, whatever works for you. But there has to be some type of conversation prior to marriage as to exactly what you want to do. If not, it's never going to work.
Right.
It's never going to work. And I think it's very unfair that if the wife is at home wife and she does nothing, then that's going to be a problem. That leaves room right there for the husband to lose interest. That leaves room right there for the husband to seek affection elsewhere. Um, if then again, if the roles are reversed and the woman is the breadwinner, if the woman is the breadwinner, she's out there working 10-hour days and she's the one that's paying all the bills, I feel that the male, the husband, should be able to get the kids ready for school, take the kids to school if need be. He can cook and clean, there's nothing wrong with him. He can do things to help ease the stress off of the wife. There shouldn't be an expectation for the wife to be the breadwinner, plus be the breadwinner, plus maintain the house, cook, clean, do laundry, homework, and the kids. That's ridiculous. He has to pull
Right.
his weight. If the roles are reversed, he's got to pull his weight.
Mm-hmm. I
But
agree.
yeah, but again, it's got to start in the beginning. You have to have that conversation of what the expectations are.
So what do you think it like a role of a husband or a role of a wife is in a marriage? Like once even if you set that expectation, like what would your expectation be for your husband?
I would expect my husband to make me feel like his wife, that I am a priority. I want to feel that my husband is capable of making decisions, that if anything should happen to me, that I know my husband is capable of taking care of the kids, the family, the household, keeping things running how it is. Um, if I ever remarry, my expectation of my husband would be if he's a provider, that, and I don't mind working, I would expect my husband to work. I would expect my husband to make me feel comfortable. I would expect him to make me a priority. I would expect to have date nights with him. I would expect him to be present in the home, balance his time between myself and the children. Um, I would also expect, him to take care of the maintenance of the cars, the yard, the house, the yard work and whatnot. I would have no problems cooking for my husband, making him a hot meal, keeping the house clean, the laundry. Um, but again, if he's making my needs feel met, then these things I would just automatically do because I feel secure within my marriage and he's making me feel like I'm his queen. So I would do that. If he's not pulling his weight and he's falling short in some areas, and I find myself having to carry the weight of the entire marriage, the family, the bills, the responsibilities, then no, I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't be capable of being able to be loving to him. I wouldn't be able to. I feel
Mm,
that I feel that the woman's role as the wife, if she's a career minded woman and she's working and the husband's working, then it's got to be a balance. So I don't think that is a set rule. I believe that each situation is different. I think you have to look at the whole aspect of the couple itself. Are we
mm-hmm.
looking at a man that's a provider, he's working, the wife is at him wife? Are both partners working? Is one working part-time, one working full-time? So there's the dynamics you have to look at to determine what's the expectations. And if situations change, then it's got to be have another conversation. Because if not, one person at some point could be left holding the weight of everything. And that's when it becomes unfair. So I don't think it's a set rule of what the husband's role is and what the wife's role is. You have to look at each individual to see exactly, okay, what exactly are they bringing to the table? What's going on? Who works? Who doesn't work? Um, who may make more money than the other person? The financial responsibility, is someone going to handle more of the finances than the other person? When it comes to the children, who's going to handle dropping them off, picking them up, the dinner and whatnot? And if their careers or their jobs are very keeps them busy or away from him, are they going to hire a nanny? Are they going to hire a cleaning service? So there's got to be conversations so that each person knows what to expect in the marriage. That's the only way it can work. If you don't have those conversations, then you're just kind of like you're just winging it. And that's when arguments come into play. That's when people feel unloved, unwanted. That's when infidelity step in. It's a whole bunch of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. That's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's just one set rules. I don't think it's one set rules. I think you have to look at each individual's relationship, and that conversation needs to be taking place so that each person knows what their expectations are before they even get married. If you have that conversation before you get married and say, listen, honey, I want to marry you. If my husband says to me, I want to get married, and I say to him, what are you expecting from me as your wife? He says, listen, I'm gonna take care of everything. I would automatically feel obligated. that if he's going to provide for me, take care of me, protect me, that I would feel obligated as his wife to make sure when he comes here from work, he has a home cooked meal. That when he walks through those doors, he smells the aroma of whatever dinner is. The house would
Mm-hmm.
always be clean. Laundry would be done. The beds would be made. I'll be when he walks through those doors, I'll be looking like $1,000,000. My hair will be combed, I'll be groomed, smelling good. So when he comes in, he feels like it's coming home to a home. I will make
Right.
our home feel like it's our, it's our safe haven, it's our sanctuary. That's
Right.
what my
Something
girl will do.
peaceful. Mm-hmm.
It'll be peace. Like when he comes here from a hard day's work, when he comes home, his home should be a place of peace. That's how I would look at it. And I would
Right.
do everything in my part to make sure I'm keeping my part of the deal
Mm-hmm.
by providing as much comfort to him so he's not as stressed out. So if that means he makes the money, but I pay the bills, I don't mind doing that. I can do that. If it means me dropping the kids off to school, picking them up, cooking dinner, I can do that because I appreciate the fact he's out there providing the money for our household.
Right.
I would have no complaints about that. Now, if he says to me, well, you're going to have to work because I don't make enough money to sustain our lifestyle, then great. Then at that point, I'm going to say, okay, well, this is what we're paying the mortgage. This is what we're paying a car note or car insurance. So these are our bills. Let's see how we're going to figure this out. And even in that part, as husband and wife, I feel that, there should be at least 4 or 5 accounts. There should be a joint account. So that's another discussion. Another discussion has to be had of there's going to be a joint account. That joint account, when each person gets paid, puts in a certain percentage of money into that account. That's what pays all the bills. And then it's going to
That's
be,
if y'all both are working.
well, then if you're both not working, why get married? Are you in a financial situation to handle the weight of it? Would you want to do that? Because now you run the risk of getting married and he's not working or you're not working. Is the person ever going to get a job now? Or are they going to say, well, you married me and I wasn't working? You see what I'm saying? What's the
Well, not
expectation?
every. Yeah, that's what. But that goes back to setting the expectation from the beginning before you get married. I'm sure you're not gonna marry somebody that's just not working there. You don't have a conversation as to why or when or where at some point in the future. So yeah, it's gonna be a competition, but there are some instances where people do get married and one is not working. Either they're in school, finishing a degree, or they had a baby, and some people get
Okay.
married when they're pregnant, and then you
But
got a baby.
even,
Now you're not
right,
working. Like,
even if that's the case, you should still have a conversation before you even think about getting married. There should be that conversation. So listen, anyone that's dating or courting, everyone knows the first 6 months is always the best. The first 6 months to a year is the best relationship yet until you have that first argument. When you have the first argument, you have a glimpse of who the person really is. That's what
mm,
normally happens. So if you're one that gets married within the first 6 months or first 6 months to a year, definitely if it's within the first 6 months, have you invested enough time in that individual to know that individual, or are you just seeing what they want to show you? Because everyone's on their best behavior in the beginning. Everyone's
well,
on
you
their best.
better make sure if you just meeting somebody and less than a year and you marry them in that amount of time, then you better make sure you really know them. Like that has to be. I would imagine if you marry somebody, you have to know them at some point. Like you would have to just know their family, be around them long enough to really get to know them at least a little bit before you start marrying them.
Marriage,
Not a year of knowing them and then boom.
marriage is a permanent thing. Marriage can either make you or break you. That's in my opinion.
Is it
Um,
permanent? A lot of people get
no,
divorced.
right. So they're right, but then look at the reasons why they get divorced. Getting married because you're pregnant is not a reason to get married,
Well, a lot of people get
in my
divorced
opinion.
because of finances,
Right, and
because
but
of
again,
communication.
correct. But if they would have had these conversations in the beginning, prior to spending money on this lavish wedding they probably can't afford, prior to even getting married, did they have that conversation? Hey, listen, you know, before you
I
even
think it's a
talk
little bit
about
more than having the conversation too. Like I think it's just people go through stages. I think I was telling you this the other day about people in their lives. Like just because we get married at this stage and we're happy and everything is going good for us at that point, then when I lose my job or when I get really sick, then it's a different me you're gonna get. It's a different version. So you're supposed to be able to stick through that relationship, that marriage, through all those different versions of each other. That's the point of marriage, right?
But
So if
it all depends on the versions, though. It all depends on the versions because yes, marriage says to death do you part through what is it? Death do you part, the thickness or the how, whatever it is. But
girl, you've been married before, you don't know, you don't know the
listen,
word.
I've been divorced a long time. What is it? To death do you part, the sickness and in health,
I guess so.
right? Whatever it is, I'm sure. Yes, it says to death do you part, but it does not mean you have to accept a lot of misbehaviors. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean because I'm married to you that I have to accept certain conducts from you. I don't have to accept that. I've been married. You know, when I married my husband, I was very young. I like I said earlier, fresh off the boat. He was just cute. I'm gonna be honest. He was cute. He was fine. I enjoyed being around him. He made me laugh. He made me feel safe. Um, we had great times together. That's the truth. And then we dated for a very short time. We were living together, and then we got married. And then we were excited. You know, I am now a wife. He is now a husband, and we are married, and we are living together, and we are playing house as husband and wife. That's how it was. And then I had my son, my first child. And so now my mindset is now on, okay, I have a child now. I need to now have a savings account for my son. I need to start saving for college. You know, you need the house with the white picket fence. I need, you know, my mind went straight into, okay, now I have a family. So my mind went into family mode. Family mode, you need your house, you need your car, you need your dog, you need your X amount of kids. You play on vacations, you have your money in the bank, you have your job. This is what you do. You have your barbecues, your cookouts. That's how my mind was.
See,
My
did you
husband,
assume that or did you have that conversation?
that's how I was raised.
That's what I was gonna go into next. That's just how
That's
you
how I
were.
was
That's
raised.
what you saw growing up. That's
Right.
how you were
As
raised.
as
But
growing up,
so you
right.
assume that's what he wanted. That's what he
But
expected.
no. That's what I automatically assume is how it's supposed to go. And that's what I'm
Okay.
saying. That's what I can say. That's what I'm saying from experience. I never had this conversation with my ex-husband. We never talked about who makes what money. We never talked about how much money we have saved. We never talked about credit. We never talked about anything. I
Mm.
found out these lessons after already having been married, after not having these conversations or even an expectation of what he expected of me. I only found out his expectations after already being in the marriage. And that's when I was like, uh-oh, what did I do? So that's why I can say you have to have these conversations. We never talked about finances. We never talked about buying property. We didn't talk about cars. We didn't talk about credit, how many kids we want. We didn't have those conversations. I got married. I had my first child. I am pregnant. We didn't talk about how many numbers of how many children we want. And we didn't even talk about where we want to live. We were young. We were hot for each other. We got married. That's as simple as that. It was
Mm.
just as simple as that. You know, I didn't ask any questions. So I went in a marriage, having already been raised in a two-parent household, with my mother and father present. You know, we lived in a house. You know, I had seen my parents, well, I had seen my father move us from a two-bedroom apartment into our own house with a nice yard and palm trees and four bedrooms and apartment and everything, you know, into a house. So we lived in a house of our own bedrooms and everything. So when I got married, I already had in my mind, well, this is what I'm going to give for my children. I'm going to give them their own house, their own bedrooms, a backyard. We're going to have barbecues. You know, we're going to the beach because that's how I was raised. I never once, it never even dawned on me to even look at how my husband's upbringing was. It didn't even dawn on me until after I was married, was when I started seeing the differences. is when we started clashing immediately. We started clashing
Mhm.
immediately. But when I'm saying, hey, we need to put money in the savings account for college, he's looking at me like I've got two heads. I'm like, what do you mean? It never dawned on me. Well, he doesn't know about that because he didn't go to college. It didn't dawn on me. When I'm talking to him about buying vehicles and we need a family vehicle, a minivan, and this and that and the other, again, I'm talking to him about subjects that he knew nothing about at that time.
Right.
Even when it
Mhm.
came to buying property and where to buy a property and down payments and stuff for our house and everything, again, you know, I started to feel at that point where, okay, now I'm carrying the weight of every conversation because he is not aware. And it's not a fault of his, but it never dawned on me to actually look at how his upbringing was versus my upbringing to see if we even do have anything that's even compatible. And I didn't find out until after I had already said my I do. And now I'm a mother. That's why it's very important to have those conversations because it puts a lot of strain on the marriage. And
Yeah.
for my marriage, we had a lot of strain because what brought us both together no longer existed. That fun and that being fun and free spirited and just the two of us and we can go wherever we want and having a great time and road trips and all that type of stuff like that became non-existent once I had a child. Once I had a child, my priorities shifted a bit where now I am raising another little human being. So the attention that I was able to give my husband at the time shifted. I wasn't able to. Now I have a little son. Now I have a son that I have to provide for and feed and make sure he's okay.
Did his attitude change towards you after that?
Of course, his attitude changed because he was so used to, and it's not the only one. Most men, a lot of men, prior to having children, are used to the woman giving them all of their attention. And he was one that he had all of my attention. But once my attention shifted to now I'm a mother, now I have a child, now I want to give my child everything I could possibly give him, my priorities changed, which means he was still a priority, but he wasn't the number one priority. And I didn't have anyone to advise me and to say, hey, always find a balance, always try to do certain things. Um, and then even when there were small needs that I felt like he should know as a man, simple things like maintaining a car, oil changes, putting where the gas tank is. He didn't know those type of things. Even though you would think a man would know, he didn't. So even for me,
So what the mhm.
coming from coming from Bermuda, I came from Bermuda. I have my own house, have my own car, have my own bike. You know what I'm saying? All my years since I was 16. So I was very much independent, used to doing things on my own. So when I got married, I was looking forward to being able to shift having to do everything on my own and now share it with a partner.
Mhm.
But instead of me having, that was my expectation. I never discussed it with him. I just assumed that's what's going to automatically happen. But it didn't because a lot of things that I already knew and had already been doing since 16, he had no idea about, didn't know how to do it. So that put a lot of strain on the marriage.
Like
A lot of,
like just simple stuff like, okay, it's time to get an oil change. Let me take it to the mechanic. Like stuff like that.
yeah, he didn't know.
Um, okay.
And again, it's not even a fault of his not knowing because my father used to always talk to me in the very beginning of my marriage. And he's always say to me, Lendrea, you have to understand his upbringing versus yours. So when I look back in it, and this is why I say also before you even get married, you have to look at how your partner treats their parents, the relationship they have with their family, especially their parents. You have to even look at the relationship they have if they have children, how they handle all of those situations. You have to look at all of that before you just dive into getting married. So with him, when I had to look back, I look back at it whereas his father never owned a vehicle and never drove a car, right? His mother never drove a vehicle, doesn't have a driver's license, never drove a car.
Mm.
He, when I met him, didn't have a driver's license, didn't even have a state ID. We had to get to Planks and get it for him. He had never owned a car. He had drove cars, but he never had a license, never had a car, never owned one. So the expectation I automatically assumed, and because previous boyfriends I had before getting married, they automatically did things. Like they automatically knew. Like access that I had, if they took my car to get it detailed, they'll take it, get it detailed, fill it up,
Mm-hmm.
they
Right.
just do it.
Normal stuff. Yeah.
Right. So when I met my husband, when I met him, I had already experienced being in relationships with other gentlemen, and they automatically would take charge. They automatically just kind of went into the role of, I'm your boyfriend. This is what I do. I'm gonna take your car, get it detailed, get an oil change, fill it up with gas, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you want tint in your car, we put tint in your windows for you, put little sound system right there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't have all I gotta do is say, here, honey, here's the keys. They know what to do. They just know what to do. Even if it came with doing odds and ends around the house, I don't have to say anything. They just know what to do. Like they just know what to do.
Right.
He didn't. That was a huge struggle for me. That was
He
a
just
struggle.
didn't know, or he just didn't want to do anything.
He didn't know.
Mm-hmm. I find that very
So
shocking.
please, it's not as shocking as you think. So I I didn't realize that until after I was married. But again, remember, I was young, dumb, married him because he was just good looking. I'm telling you, he was just fine. And at that time, I was in love. So you kind of overlook all of those things. Excited to get married and we got married. So
Right.
this is why when it comes to marriage, I don't take it lightly anymore. I
And
don't.
don't overlook nothing. That's what I
I
just learned.
don't right. I don't overlook anything. Don't listen, don't be ashamed or embarrassed to ask any questions. Ask questions before you marry somebody. Say, hey, how's you and your mom? If you never mentioned your mother to me before, you never mentioned your father to me before, ask. Because you may hear something that they either don't speak to their parents, something's going on, at least to give you like a window as to what's going on with them to help you make a decision. Normally, when you find a man that treats his parents with respect and they're very respectful, especially with the sons to the mothers and the daughters to the fathers, you kind of have a good feeling that that's how they're going to be with you, or hopefully they're going to be like that with you. Um,
Hopefully, because there's some
hopefully,
weirdos who love their mom,
yeah,
and they're just a bunch of weirdos.
that's
So,
true too. No, that's true too. No, no, you're right. That's true too. But no, you do have to ask that. You know, um, and when it comes to the finances, you do have to have separate accounts. I believe that you have to have a joint account. Like I said earlier, for the bills, you have to have another account for savings where both of you agree to a certain amount of money go to the savings, a certain amount of money go to the joint account to pay the bills. And then you have to have your individual accounts separate from each other. That neither one of you know how much money is in there, and it's none of your business what you do with that money. You still need to have that sense of being an individual person. You have to have your own separate account as well. I believe in that as well.
mm-hmm.
If I want to spend money and buy myself a pair of shoes, that's none of his business. That's my
It's none
money.
of your, yeah, it's none of your concern. I don't want to hear you talking all
Complaining.
that mess. Right.
Exactly.
So,
If it's not coming out the joint account, then it's none of your business. That's how I feel.
since I've never been married before, but I mean, I do want to get married at some point in my life. I've always
Mhm.
talked about like how I want to get married. I'm not into
Yeah.
the big fancy wedding. I don't really want that. I'd rather celebrate a 10-year milestone as opposed to getting married, because I don't feel like marriage should be taken lightly. Like you mentioned, I feel like marriage is something very important. It's sacred. It's a union. Yeah, you sign a document. Yeah, you're joined together by life, but I feel like it's a commitment to that other person for a lifetime, not just for a moment in their life.
Hmm.
So I don't feel like it's important to have a big celebration in the beginning of that. I feel like, you know, in a milestone is more memorable to me. So But for me, I feel like the role of a husband and wife should be in my life, as I would say. I don't want to say it's somebody else's, but as how I see it, in my opinion, is that like, the wife's responsibility is to take care of the household, whatever that looks like, whether it's managing the flow of the house, the groceries, excuse me, the rules, the cleaning, the not saying that they both can't clean, but who's going to be doing the cleaning, just managing the household in general, making sure it smells good, making sure it looks good, making sure the furniture is right, making sure the kids get taken care of every day. And then the role of the husband should be the protector, the provider. You got to make sure that that the roof over our head never collapses. Like, that's your responsibility, whether that's the house that we live in, whether it's the car that we drive, whether it's like any problems that we have. You're supposed to be the one that's going to come out and figure out how to solve them, right? Protector, provider, and making sure that we got what we need to take care of everything else. That's how I see it. Whether that means that I work and he works, like, that's fine with me too, if we both work, right? Because we're both providing and both put something to the household.
I agree.
But I'm not, but I definitely agree with 70-30. It's
Yeah,
that, so you pay
I think
majority and I'm
70,
going to pay the light bill, the gas bill, I buy the groceries. I got you.
70-30 is fair. No, listen, 70-30 is fair. If he is
You
the
know what I'm
provider and
saying?
he's more money, 70-30 is fair. Listen,
Right.
he can handle the mortgage, he can handle those type of bills. I can cover low electricity, low cable bills,
You
and
know,
yes.
I take care of all the groceries.
Mhm.
Worry about that.
But no, and I think also that with the husband, see what happens as well is, even though the husbands could be the providers, they still have to have a presence, and they're still going to be present in their children's life.
Exactly.
So even though
Yep.
you're working, you still have to be present when it comes to things that matter, like sports day or activities at school with the children. You got to
Parent teacher
still be able to,
conference.
right? You still got to be able to, not every appointment, but you have to show up to some. You got to show up to some of them. You got to be there.
Majority, I feel like y'all show up to. Just as much as the role of the mother is important in a child's life, the role of the father is super important as well. It's really important, So
No, I agree. No, I absolutely
yeah,
agree with that. But
yeah.
listen, I believe in marriage. I love marriage. My parents been married for 25 years.
Hmm.
Um, so I was raised in a two-family household, so I know what the benefits of having a two-parent household can be, of being in a marriage. So I always wanted, for myself, I always wanted my children. One thing that I did not want to do was, I did not want to have children out of wedlock. That was one of my number one rules. I did not want to do that. Not that I'm saying that marriage is the key to anything. It's not. It's really not. Because there are some families that do function without being married and have children, and you know they can co-parent effectively. But for myself, I didn't want to have children out of wedlock. That was one thing I was very adamant about. I did not. I said when I did have my children, I do want to be married. Then I'm gonna have my children. That was one thing I was
Hmm.
adamant about. Um,
Girl, me too, but oops.
well, you listen, it happens. Look, it happens. I don't know anybody who doesn't. It happens. It happens. But I think marriage is very sacred. I welcome anyone to get married. I'll never knock it. Your wife is not a ball and chain around your ankle, nothing like that. But I do feel that, what saddens me is that I take marriage very seriously. And when I encounter people, or even gentlemen, or even women too, that I come across that are married, one of my biggest pet peeves is how some of these men, listen, I'll never stop talking about it, how some of these men act. Some of these married men act like they're single, and it really bothers me to the core. I mean, to my core. If you want to act like you're single, why are you married? I ask that all the time. That's one of my pet peeves. If you want to act like you're single, why are you even married? Don't do it. Like, don't do it. Don't do it.
That's
Yeah.
true.
That for me, that's one of my pet peeves. One of
That is a good one because I went out the other day and I met this guy at this it was like a group of friends and I met him for the first time and he was there and I had no idea he was married. He didn't come with the ring on. He came very like flirtatious, just very weird. Like he asked to see my DMs and everything. Just very, very weird. I was like, okay, this must be just some young single guy that's just out here on the prowl, just because he's just asking me all these questions and he's asking other girls, he's hugging girls that walk by. Like he's just very outgoing and just flirtatious with it. So his homegirl was just like, you know, he was just explaining how much he doesn't need a woman in his life. He doesn't have to have a woman. He chooses to have one if he wants one. So I just found it really weird. I'm like, I never heard a man that said that before. Like, you know. So
Mhm.
his homegirl was like, "Can you believe it?" And he's married. He just had a baby 2 days ago. I'm
Oh,
like, wait a
wow.
minute, what?
Yeah.
You're married. You're not showing. You're
Yeah.
not wearing your ring. You're outside at a bar late night
Yeah.
hugging and flirting with all waitresses that walked by. Just had a baby 2 days ago,
Yeah.
and you have the audacity to be asking me to go through my DMs. Like for what?
Yeah. Yeah.
For what enjoyment does that? What does that bring you? Like I'm so confused.
No, you're absolutely right. And this is why, I think the value of marriage or the meaning of marriage is I don't know. People nowadays they don't value it. You have people that's been married five, 6 times, 5, 6 times.
Right.
If it doesn't work out, they just get divorced. If it doesn't work out, they just get divorced. Yeah. Nobody values, very rarely do people value it anymore. They show it. No, it's like it's just something to do. Yeah.
Someone said you haven't lived a fabulous life until you've been married twice.
Oh, well, I'm ready for round two then. Ah,
Then you'll be fabulous, girl.
ready for round two then. But no, I think yeah. So definitely the role of the husband and the role of the wife. Nowadays, it all depends. You have to really look at. I don't think it's just one straight answer. I really don't. It's
No,
not
I
one
think you
straight
have to
answer
just
to
look at
that.
yourself and figure
Yeah,
out what you
one
want
straight answer.
out of that relationship. Yeah, like what do you want? And because you have to honestly live in your truth. If you're gonna be with somebody for the rest of your life or their life, that's what truly what you believe in. You better make sure that you're living in your truth and make sure that whatever you want out of that relationship, you're getting out of it in order for you to be happy.
No, but just and you got to be honest with it as well too. Listen, like
That's
I said
it,
previously,
exactly.
if I ever remarry and my husband or the guy I'm dating says to me, "Hey, let's get married," I'm gonna say before we get married, we have to have a quick conversation. What do you expect from me? He tells me what he expects. I'm gonna tell him what I expect. If he wants to marry me, I'm gonna say, listen, I expect for the second half of my life, if I'm gonna be remarried, that I want to have no stresses. Meaning, are you gonna be the provider? Are we gonna be getting 50-50? Is it 70-30? That conversation is gonna be had up front. I do not want any more kids. If he wants children, then it's off the table. I'm not prepared to have any more children. I don't mind adopting. I can even foster some children, but I do not want
What
any
if you
more
get an
children.
oops baby? What if it's oops, I'm pregnant?
If it's
No what?
if it's a oops, if it's the oops, then I will.
Okay,
I'm
okay.
very much pro-life. I don't agree with abortions and
But no
whatnot.
planned pregnancies.
Right. I don't right. So if it was the oops, I'm gonna have my child. No matter what anybody says, it is what it is. I will have my child. But it's not
Hmm.
planned. So if he says to me, this is what I would do, I promise you ABCD, we have that conversation. And I would say to him, you as my man, I expect you to respect me, to love me, to make me a priority. We have date nights and whatnot. Um, if there is an oops pregnancy, then I will have my child. I was whatever happens, I will have my child. I don't. It will haunt me to abort a child, so I will not do that. Um, I would say that, and then I would tell him. I said, "What are your expectations of me?" If he says that my expectations of you is, I want you to, be respectful, to cook, clean, or whatever. If there's demands come into that, that's when I have to say to him, well, if you expect me to cook, clean, maintain the house, and wash your clothes, iron your clothes, and whatnot, I don't expect to pay any bills. I don't.
That's what I'm saying. Let's
I don't expect to
try to
pay any bills. I'm being
understand.
very honest. I don't expect if you want me, if you want me to be your own piece and you expect me to keep a house, make sure it's I'm cooking for you every night or at least 5 times a night, house is clean and you don't have nothing to worry about. I have no problems being your at-home wife. I have no problems doing that as long as you're providing. If you're not
Yeah,
providing
that's
at that
that's a
level,
lot.
yeah,
No, men don't
yeah.
understand. That's a lot to do and to
Listen,
take care of in the day. Like some women rather go to work and come home
right,
because it is a lot.
right. But no, it would have to be a conversation like that. Now, if I met a guy, he swept me off my feet, and for some reason he might have been in between jobs. Who knows? Sometimes it happens. You might find love out there like that. Or he may be one of those aspiring entrepreneurs, or whatever the case may be. And I have a weak moment, I do get married, and I'm the breadwinner, he's not, that he's gonna know up front, you know what? No, let me not even say that because I'm never gonna do that. No.
Not a weak moment and get married though.
No.
Like,
That's
why
why
would
I said,
you?
look, that's why I said, no, let me catch myself. I'm not doing nothing like that. No, I'm not doing that. Just even saying that statement started to bring stress on. I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Caught
doing that.
yourself like, nope.
Not a catch. No, I'm not doing that. No, there's no way in the world. But
Mm.
no, listen, I have friends that are married. I have friends that are married, and some of the wives call me. And sometimes they tell me the most ridiculous arguments with their husbands, and I remind them, you got a good husband. I tell them, sometimes I tell them straight. Y'all gonna have something stupid. You have a good man. When you have a husband that's out there busting his tail for you, bought
Mm-hmm.
you in him, bought you in car, doesn't stress you out, you got a really good man by your side and is loyal to you. Come on,
That's
come on.
good. We gotta normalize
Pay
that.
attention to what you have.
Right.
No,
We gotta
no,
normalize friends telling their
yeah,
friends the truth. Right?
yes,
Don't just be sticking by your friend and be like, oh yeah,
no,
I'm on your side. No, sometimes your
no.
friend gotta hear the truth too, because sometimes
Listen,
they're the one that's wilding.
I have a girlfriend that has two beautiful children, and her husband have been married now for about, I don't know, but they've been together for about, God knows, 15 years when they was in college or something like that. So they've been together for a while. But he has a great job. She has a great job. They bought their first house. They have two children. He absolutely loves her. She loves him. They love the children. He's never stepped out on her. He respects her. They have the little spats here and there. But when she calls me for her nonsense, I tell her point, I'm like, listen, are you crazy? That's not even an argument. Are you serious? You have a really good guy that's really appreciating you and the kids, you know, what you're complaining about, you need to catch yourself. I'll tell up front. Now, on the flip side of that, I have some friends who are married and their husbands are absolutely worthless. And I will say it, absolutely worthless. Worthless.
Oh man.
They're worthless. Yeah, absolutely worthless. You know, where I mean, listen, they would talk to any and everybody that disrespectful with it. They know they're disrespectful with it. They'd either cheat on them multiple times. You know, why even be married? Why even be married? You know, I would never advise anyone to leave their significant other. I never do that. But you know, if you're not valuing the fact that you're married and valuing your partner, come on, just let her go. Let him or her go. Let him go. Yep, let
I
them go.
agree. Let them
Yeah,
go. Let them be free, please.
let them go. Because
I
you know
agree.
why? Because once you let them go, they're gonna thrive. They're gonna shine. They're gonna be so happy. You know, you're blocking their chances of being somebody that can love them for who they are. That's what you're doing.
Don't say that because sometimes they don't want you to thrive and be happy. They know what they're doing.
Yeah, that's true too. They want to keep you down.
Sometimes, yeah, they want to keep you down. They want to hold you back. So,
No,
mm-mm.
no, you're right. You're right, but no. I think people need to start valuing the people need to start valuing their relationships, their marriages. They gotta really value their families. People are out there taking too many risks, man. You're taking too many risks. That's gonna cost you your family. It doesn't make sense. I don't understand why. I don't
Value
understand why.
yourself. I mean, this is one thing that I feel like I've been teaching my son since he was a young age is to value himself. Is to literally take care of himself. physically, mentally, emotionally
Mm-hmm.
first. Because if you're taking care of yourself, there's no way you're gonna want to live in a situation that's harmful to your emotions or to your needs. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be in a toxic relationship because you care too much about yourself. So I think that's where it starts, man. You gotta just put yourself first. You gotta want more for yourself.
You're right. I mean, marriage is a sacred union between two people, and
Two
there's other
separate
people.
individuals too. Like you're two
Yeah,
separate people.
marriage is sacred. Marriage is sacred between, like you said, two individuals. Marriage, I believe, should not be taken lightly. I believe both parties should respect each other, respect the vows. If they're unhappy to leave, the husband should be the provider, the protector of his wife. The wife should respect the husband. They should have conversations as to what each other's expectations are. They should talk about finances, credit, everything. They should even have they should have the conversations before they get married. That's how I feel. I believe in marriage. I believe marriage is great. When I was married, marriage is great. I don't knock it. I don't knock it. It may not be for everybody. I think it's a beautiful thing when you can find a person that completes you. I believe it's beautiful. Yeah. That's all I
Yeah,
got to
I
say
agree.
about this. Mm-hmm.
All right, well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Straight Talk No BS. Leave your comments. We'd love to hear some of your opinions on what you think the role of a husband or a role of a wife is within a marriage and what that looks like for you guys. Share some of your opinions in the comments. Check us out on Spotify, Google, Amazon, YouTube. Check us out on our website, straighttalknobs.com. Like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on all our social media platforms. We have a lot of fun stuff coming for you guys this summer and this year. Stay tuned. See y'all next week.
Bye.